Holy shit. That is the craziest thing I have ever seen. And I'm Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Quaid has seen some shit.
In the time before Atlantis sank and the lands of the world were savage and untamed, one man would claim his destiny. Leaving his Atlantean tribe behind and throwing off the shackles of Lemurian bondage, he sailed the seas as a pirate captain before seizing his place as a king. And now that he has the throne, how long will he be able to keep it? This is the Shadow Kingdom, the classic sword and sorcery tale by Robert E. Howard, adapted by Randy Zimmerman, with artwork by Russ Leach. Available now at fundmycomic.com. In the middle of the night, or early Friday morning, depending upon where you are in the world, a group of experienced comics professionals get together to examine and instruct about the art form that they love. That's great comic artwork on Comics by Night, Fridays at 5 a.m. Eastern, here on the Indie Comics Network, indiecomicsnetwork.com.
What was that? This is not a charade.
That is not a joke. That is a natural fact.
My goodness. Did you see that little mishap I had? I loaded the wrong video this morning.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. Where's my intro music? I can't start without my intro music. Gotta have my intro music. Wow.
I haven't seen clips in a long time.
I love it. Good morning, everybody. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be a fun day. It's gonna be a really good day.
Let's make it a fun day.
Let's make it a fun day. It may not be Sunday, but it could be a fun day. You know what? This week was the eclipse.
Whoops.
Yep.
Warren keeps popping in and out.
Well, that's just Chris. That's his
I'm in the mountain,
internet.
so sometimes we just blink out.
Barren Soil.
Yeah. Chris just blinks in and out sometimes. So we just deal with it. What's fun is when he is on a roll saying something, and he pops out and then pops back in. We have no idea what he said, so we just make it up.
Yep, we just make it up.
Assume that we know what he said.
That's when I'm first.
We use context clues. We'll use context clues today. So yeah, today is Chris Wozniac is our special guest. We're going to talk about a little bit of his career and what he's working on today. He's going to help kind of chime in a little bit. Chris, real quick, introduce yourself to everybody so they kind of know who this guy in the New York hat is.
Well, I'm from New York, so but my name is Chris Wozniak. I used to draw and write for DC, and currently I'm doing a noir series, an anthology series called Barren Soil, and I'm doing it myself.
All by your lonesome.
Yeah,
right?
First issue is complete. I'm working on the second issue now.
Very cool.
And that's I'm here to plug a little bit. So
yeah. So who was it that you? Are there any characters or stories that you worked on that we may have known that we might know about?
Yeah, I did. I tripped around Marvel and DC quite a bit back in the day. Some Spidey 2099, some Justice League, some Superman. So a little Batman, I think too, actually. That type of thing. You know what it's like in those days when you're freelancing, it's a little bit of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you work primarily as a writer or an artist over there?
Mostly as an artist, but I did sell some stories to Marvel. I tried to sell stories to DC. And I sold a couple of Spidey 2099 stories and a Hulk story to Marvel. And then to Image and Dark Horse, I was doing some writing.
Very cool. So we're pretty excited to have you here today. How was your week? Did you enjoy the eclipse at all?
Yeah, we actually, where I am, we had we got the full 3 minute total eclipse. And, I live in a tiny town of 3,000 people up in the mountains of New Hampshire, and we probably had 5,000 tourists in town,
Mm-hmm. I'm also in a small town, and we were in the path of totality. I wish I had echo when I say that. Path of totality. So yeah, we had path of totality, full 3 minutes. Yeah. It's the longest I've ever lasted on any one particular subject at a time.
And we have crystal clear blue skies here.
Oh yeah, it was gorgeous out. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal, and I didn't really care about it too much. And then my wife was making a big deal about it for months, since December. She was like, "Oh, we're going to be in the path of totality. The eclipse is coming. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm taking the day off work." Well, she got talking about it at work, took the day off. Well, they wound up shutting down the branch that day for the thing, so she wound up getting a paid day off. And I honestly was still undecided Monday morning if I was even going to get out of the office and stop working. Then they told me there was going to be a cookout down at my brother and sister-in-law's house. And that was it. There's one thing that can make me emerge from my cave. It's definitely grilled meat. That'll do it. Right. So I was like, I'll go down, because we're eating right before it's supposed to happen. So we go, but I'm so glad that I went. And I mean, it was probably one of the coolest things that I've witnessed with my eyes.
Yeah, it was more impressive than I thought it was going to be. Maybe 5 years ago or something. But the total thing was actually, and we played the just as it started to cover, we played the Pink Floyd song.
Totally clipped it.
It was awesome. It was
Dark
really
Side of the Moon.
to see it in
Yeah,
real life.
yeah.
It was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I started humming "It's the End of the World as we know it." Freaking people out. No, it's everyone thought the end of the world was coming. We're still here. We're still here. The world's still turning. But
much to my disappointment.
Right, yeah. I was like, geez, man, that would have been nice. Everybody left behind could have just figured out what to do with Fun My Comic and all that other stuff. Yeah. It's like, figure it out, guys. I'm out of here. But honestly, if God were going to use anything to grab people's attention, it would be something like that. Like, that's pretty impressive, That's a pretty impressive thing to see. So I can see like why ancient people would be like, oh my gosh, the sun blacks out.
You don't see the moon like crossing the sky on its way to cover it. Kind of like it's couldn't see anything until it was like
it's there, right?
Right on it, yeah.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't that? Because then that means the moon is up there most days during this in the sky somewhere, and we don't see it.
Yeah, just can't see it.
It's strange. Randy, how about you? How was your week?
It was all right. No complaints.
All
Stayed
right.
busy. Got a lot to do. The usual. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
prepping for the show this weekend is what I'm doing. Grand Rapids.
Oh,
Con.
okay. Yeah. Grand Rapids. Yeah, that's gonna be a big one.
Grand Rapids Con in Kalamazoo. So
Kalamazoo. I've always loved the name Kalamazoo. It's like the other like towns called Kalamazoo or Pulaski. I'm not even like from that area, but if I say I can't say Pulaski without saying Pulaski. I can't say it normal. I've got to really get that A in there.
I'm gonna be moderating panels down there too, and the one I'm looking forward to is I'll be moderating a panel with Howard Mackey.
Howard Mackey.
Let's see how that goes. Yeah,
very cool.
Aren't the Gibson guitars out of Kalamazoo?
I think they started there. Yeah,
factory there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now they're down. The Gibson factory is now in Nashville.
Yeah,
it was in Nashville. I don't know where it's at now.
Yeah, I think they moved it again.
Yeah, they've had a lot of trouble with their business model. A lot of it was quality control.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sell guitars.
Yeah,
and we had trouble selling Gibsons after their.
I looked for this is a little off topic, but I remember like about that time I was looking for a Les Paul, a new one, and 3 years of looking for them, and sometimes even ordering some blind, just hoping I would get a good one. And traveling hours to look at guitars that the quality control is just awful.
Oh, very bad, very bad.
Yeah.
Eric, how about you? How was your week, man?
It's been crazy. I've been working for my buddy Darren, who has the Fantastic collection for 3 days a week now for a while.
Yeah.
And just getting into that stream of things of commuting to a place and sitting there for a while has been tiring, but it's a lot of fun. I work for all three of his companies, including Fantastic, doing the websites and marketing, email marketing materials and things like that. So it's been pretty decent. And for the eclipse, we didn't get any work done either.
I bet.
Did anybody else get a headache from it? I had a headache all day.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit of a headache.
You aren't supposed to stare at the sun while it's eclipsing.
Well, we had we had a welder's mask. One of the guys does welding too.
There you
that
go.
Works there, and he brought his welding mask. And the bad thing about the mask is it has this auto toning feature where if it's not getting enough light, it doesn't block as much. So you're looking at it and suddenly the thing flips out and you're just like, oh crap.
That's where your headache came from. Right there.
Yeah, that's where your headache came from.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll do it. It's crazy.
It just got dim where I was.
It got complete darkness here.
That's cool.
Strange, man. It was weird. Yeah, and then I had some apple pie. That's how that ended.
America.
Yeah, America. Yeah.
America.
And then I had some apple pie. Yeah. Let's welcome our chat. Let's see who's in the house today. We got Dr. Mask and his retro elixir is here today. Hail nerds. Great to see you. Great to see you today. We've got Jolly Green in the house. Welcome, Jolly Green. We've got Will Pace, Creators Outlet, is with us today. Levi Skeen. We've got Finatro. Woot woot. It's good to see you, man. Good morning, all. Hail, Luke. Good to see you. Comic book black belt Russ Leach is in the house.
Yeah.
Guys,
Really
real
close.
quick.
Yep. Really
Real
close.
quick. I got to
200%.
talk about this. Look at this. Look at this. Less than $200 away from a $10,000 campaign.
Yeah.
Nice.
Guys, 2 days left to go.
Getting there.
Maybe you guys can help add another back or two to that today. We've got 2 campaigns that we want you back in today. We want you back in this one. We want you back in Barren Soil. And so flip either Randy or Chris or both of them the bird today. Okay? Let's flip them the bird. I want you guys to flip them the bird.
Flip it. Flip it.
That is the goal.
Eric's still got AR13L up there too.
Yep. They've already broke 20K. So we're trying to
Yeah, we're good.
we're trying to get you to break a 10K. And we're trying to get
never enough.
trying to get Wozniak over there funded.
Oh yeah.
You know, we got to get Wozniak funded. So
I think Iron Age Icons only has a few days left too, right?
they do. Yeah. We'll take a look at a few of the different campaigns that are running over there today before we close out. But hey, there's Dreaded Dinosaur. Eric Hodson's in the chat and on the panel. Good to see you there.
Just letting Yo-Yo know he's in the house.
Yo, in the house. We've got Todd Mulrooney in the house. Welcome, Chris Wozniak. Is a force.
That's what she
I'm
said.
adding him to my bucket list co-host. That's what she said. That's a good one. And with that, we have to give you a. That's what she said.
That's right.
All right, we got Philbo Baggins in the house. Welcome. It's good to have you here today.
Phil Bowl.
Russ says, "Cool, Chris Wozniak, great artist on the show. Nice one, Luke. Yes,
Thank you.
got a good one today." And he says, "Well, you know, as well as Eric and myself."
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And then Hojo's in the house. Welcome, Hojo. It's good to have you here, guys. Do not forget, please go ahead and comment. Let us know you're here. Be a part of the show. Ask questions as we go. But you know what we're going to do now? We are going to, I think we're going to dig into a couple of news articles because there is a lot out there that happened from Thursday to Thursday. It's almost like we had some weird astrological things happen and the world went a little silly right in our own backyard.
They don't need an excuse for that to happen.
They don't need an excuse to go silly. It's crazy out there. Where's my little there it is. I just realized what I said before. Where's my little thing? Oh, there it is.
That's what she said. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Hasbro.
That's what she said.
Oh, guys. So, oh my goodness. I'm still getting used to this new system.
Yeah.
Oh, and my chair broke yesterday. So I'm not in my normal chair.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I'm like, holy cow. So I'm just in like a standard old chair and not my nice one. So I knew it was coming. It was an old chair. So
we knew this was coming too.
We knew this was coming. Hasbro CEO talks layoffs. They pivot to games. The open gaming license and Magic overproduction. Oh, you didn't say you'd overproduce that game, did you?
No. It gets me every time.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You wouldn't have done that. Hasbro CEO Chris Cox. Oh, there you go. That's the problem. Ain't got no gas in it.
Exactly.
It answered
Ain't got no gas in it. Yeah.
I know what the problem is. Ain't got no gas in it. It answered questions on the company's recent layoffs, the pivot to games from toys, the impact of the leaked changes to the D&D open gaming license last year, and on overproduction of Magic the Gathering in an interview on the NPR podcast. Ooh. Cox was asked about the Hasbro layoffs, which cut 1,100 jobs in December of 2023, including some senior wizards from the Coast employees. Cox emphasized that the layoffs were concentrated. Yeah, they concentrated on it, right?
It's always important to lay off your senior wizards.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
They were concentrated in the toy business, but did acknowledge that they also impacted Wizards of the Coast. We argued that the Wizards of the Coast layoffs were due to changing priorities in a growing business. Like changing priorities. We're broke.
I love it.
We're having cash flow problems.
Gotta love corporate speak. Yeah. Our priorities are changing.
Someone's getting me too'd. I don't know.
In a growing business. That's why we laid off 1,100 people.
Right, yeah. They asked about the pivot to games from toys. Cox pointed to the difference in growth rates, noting that toys had been growing at a single-digit rate over the past decade, while games had grown at a higher single-digit rate. Again, what is this nonsense?
I can tell you.
If you look at something and there's nothing there, what's the difference of figuring out what it was in the first place?
You know what? I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary, for jumping in on that one. Cox argued that the overwhelmingly negative reaction to the league changes to Wizards of the Coast open gaming license for Dungeons and Dragons early in 2023, which led to the reversal of the plan. Good job, fans, for making that happen. And thank you for the insider who let that terrible news get out early so we could fight it, because that was some dumb choices. Mm-hmm. that had not damaged the brand. So it said that it didn't damage the brand. I'm calling BS on that. And that their data shows that overall satisfaction with the game is generally up. You know why? Because everyone now decided they want to write a game manual in their open gaming license. Mm-hmm. And then asked about whether overproduction of Magic the Gathering was hurting the brand, Cox pointed to the game's overall expansion, which he attributed to new styles of casual play and an increasingly diverse player base, which for Magic is now 35% non-male versus 45% for D&D. So we've gone woke and we've ran away all of the players that used to be there. But instead of pointing that out, we're just going to say that we're more diverse now than we used to be, but that had nothing to do with the layoffs.
Non-male.
I was just going to say
what
that.
What could it possibly be? Who will ever know?
Chris, I'm not sure of your political affiliations, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Dad, it makes no difference on me. But you're soon going to learn that I have very little patience for shenanigans when it comes to this.
Eric, you know what that means. Doug knows what that means. What does that mean, Doug?
It means you're a catcher, not a pitcher.
Wonder is suffering from a lack of, the way that the blockbuster films are just tanking one after another, year after year, because of all the nonsense they're sticking in them. There's no real tie-ins to the successful summer blockbuster glut of toys that you would usually go out and get.
Right.
Those are non-existent.
You are. Well, I mean, you're spot on with that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, there is a glut of toys. It's at Odd Lots and Ollies.
Yeah.
There you go.
There.
It's hitting the big lots. Coming
big
soon.
Lots. Yeah.
To a dollar store near you.
Yeah. The big boon used to be, we got a big hit movie. Here's the toy tie-in.
Oh yeah.
And that would, it would put them over for the year
quite easily.
Doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't even exist. And
no.
Now, what years were you working at Marvel and DC?
Oh, I started at DC 85, going on 86. And I worked there on and off for, a little more than a decade. Marvel, probably maybe 6 years or something, in between, like going back and forth,
So were you doing any work for them during the 2000s when things started to get real?
No, not too much. Actually, for the latter half of the 2000s, I actually had my own comic book company, and I had about 15 or 16 Marvel and DC artists, and inkers working on books. I had a money guy, and I handled the creative side of things. And I was actually writing most of our titles, not all of them, but like the main ones. And we stockpiled quite a few books, but pushing back on a release. We need a bigger release. We need a bigger, and we were just stockpiling all this. Everybody's getting paid, so we kept working. And so, eventually it became, very much cross-gen 2 is the way I hear it. We had a couple of cross-gen guys that, had been cross-gen. They were like, this is the same situation, and eventually, we closed shop without even releasing a book, and which is crazy because there was tons of great stuff. Chris Batista, 8 issues of it, and we'll never see the light of day. It's all
8 issues of what was that?
He did a book for us, so he did 8 issues. I don't want to plug it because it's in legal limbo.
Oh.
But because I wouldn't see my half of it if we
right. You want to see your half, right?
Yeah, I was co-creator, if not creator, on almost every title. And so there's just lots of great stuff that Brett Breeding was working for us, and Jim Fern, Jose Marzan, and we had good colorists. We had Matt Yackey for a bit, and Paul Mounds, and we had talented people, and
unfortunately nothing got.
But we had an asshole money guy, and so that stuff it got tied up, and it's still tied up, and we'll probably never see the light of day. All of it. 8 years.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. Speaking of light of day, the dystopic future world of Terminator returns to comics. Dynamite Entertainment has signed with Studio
Canal.
All right, so you know what I wanted to pronounce it as? Studioic Anal.
Oh, okay.
Might be on something.
Studioic Anal. SAS. Never mind. For the comics license. You read it. I've gotten myself into it.
For the comics license to the dystopic future world of the Terminator, the company's announced the first film, a blockbuster directed by James Cameron, was originally released in 1984. This is the 40th anniversary of the property.
I'm old.
Yeah, we're all old. Dynamite has previously published comics tied to the property from 2007 to 2011, and Terminator comics have been published by a raft of other publishers, including Dark Horse Comics, which held the license the longest, Marvel Comics, Now Comics, Malibu, Beckett, and most recently IDW, which released a Transformers Terminator crossover in 2021. The most recent run of Dark Horse titles ended with the Terminator Sector War collection published in 2019. Dynamite plans both new stories and collections of previously published material. The most recent media release was the poorly received Terminator Dark Fate in 2019. Netflix has an anime based on the property in the pipe.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, let's hope the anime does better than the live action did.
Hate even that verbiage, in the pipe. Anyway, Dynamite has been expanding its portfolio of licensed comics, most recently with a group of animation characters from Warner Brothers. See Dynamite licensed animated series.
Well,
we're finally going to get that Duck Dodgers mega series after all.
Can't wait.
Sweet.
Speaking of IDW.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Speaking of IDW.
Whoops.
Uh-oh. Oops.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
IDW layoffs, departure. It seems to be the name of the company anymore. IDW layoffs, whenever I see them listed in the news. IDW Media Holdings management layoffs and a departure last week included the company's chief operating officer. That's the COO, the COO.
Yeah.
And
I just figured out a new thing for what IDW stands for. I don't work anymore.
I don't work.
I don't work.
God.
And 2 editors. ICV2 has confirmed Amber Herta has joined IDW in 2021 and was promoted to Chief People Officer and Chief Operating Officer in a segment. DEI. Chief People Officer.
People Officer.
Yep.
We got to make sure we've got a very diverse people.
She runs the people there, yeah.
Non-male
Is that
humans.
Has anybody ever heard of that? Chief People Officer?
No, never.
That's the title.
It's a polite way to say DEI. Yeah.
I gotta say, I know Chris Ryle and Scott Dunbar. I like them both. They're both good guys. You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Funny stuff.
Chief People Officer and Chief Operating Officer in a management shakeup a year ago. See their other article was among the 5 management layoffs. Group editor Kristen Simon, who was handling original graphic novels, collected editions, and new initiatives, was another of the layoffs. No more new initiatives from them.
More new initiatives.
And long time, since 2008, special projects editor Scott Dunbar, who handled the company's artist editions, for which he won multiple Eisner Awards, left the company last Friday, he announced on Facebook. Sad to hear.
He's like, yeah.
Those are some of the best products they've put out.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
I bought a couple of dozen of those.
Yeah. IDW Publishing improved a year-over-year performance in its last physical quarter, showing a $496,000 profit for the quarter, ending in October 31st, but lost $4.9 million for the fiscal year.
Whew.
Or in other words, it would have been a $5.4 million loss if they hadn't had that last quarter profit.
Yeah, wow, that is.
Oof.
Is Chris even with the company anymore? Because I had thought he had stepped away.
He did, and then went back. I actually run a Facebook group, a comic book group with Chris and Rob Liefeld. He did, like, I think he was like, let go. Don't quote me on that. But then hired back to for a while, and I don't know what the situation is now. But I know he did leave for a little bit, and then he was.
Pardon me. Sorry.
Coming and going seems to be a regular at IDW, especially when you're, somebody who's important.
Well, I don't understand, but they somehow still have money
leave.
to lose.
Yeah.
I just don't. Yeah. I mean, so obviously people are working there. Well, they're getting paid there. They don't work. I don't work. See, IDW. I don't work. But they are. I don't understand how a company can lose that much money and still be around. I just don't get it, especially comics.
I think
Look at Disney.
Not Marvel. They don't have that kind of backing. I don't think, but it's obviously it's taken its toll. But for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They don't have the power, the big studios like
this is not what it used to be either.
Disney behind them. Yeah, I just don't get it.
Their current share price is 38 cents per share.
Yeah.
The one thing I can think of is that whoever is their majority shareholder is keeping this tire afloat.
I'm leaning more towards what Randy used to say, that this is a money laundering operation.
I mean, yeah, that's.
You never know. That's just a theory.
It's a theory. It's
alleged. No, it's not even alleged.
But Randy's saying, hey, if you need someone else to help filter that money,
right here. Update.
I know how to keep a secret, guys.
I know how.
There's several Comic Cons who I'm convinced were just money laundering operations.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about it. It'd be great. I mean, if you were going to do that, maybe it's because I'm watching Breaking Bad with my kid, but if you were going to launder money, this industry would be the perfect one to do it in.
Rumor is there has been a couple of them in the past. Yes.
Yeah. Update. The company provided the following comments on the layoffs. IDW did make the tough but strategic decision to reduce 5 positions today. This is part of a strategy to create a more efficient IDW and one that will be better able to delight fans for years and years to come. They're saying basically, even though we're losing money, we're not going anywhere. We are grateful for the years of commitment and hard work and wish abundant success to those affected. The 5 layoffs represent 9.4% of the company's staff, which means there were 53 before the reduction in force, the company said.
So if you're keeping score out there, the number is now officially 49.
49.
49. Stay tuned, folks. 49.
Guys, some sad news this week.
R.I.P. Yeah, it's
MD
been a
Bright
sad week.
passed away.
It's been a sad couple of weeks for creators in general, too. So it's not
It
good.
really has.
MD Bright, R.I.P. Marvel DC milestone artist, co-creator of Icon and Rocket and Quantum and Woody. Artist and occasional writer, MD Bright, who was active in Marvel, DC, and Milestone in the 80s and 90s and co-created Milestone Comics team of Icon and Rocket and Valiant characters Quantum and Woody, died on March 27th, 2024 at the age of 68. Still too young.
Way too young.
Bright was born in 55, the fifth of 7 children, and grew up in Montclair, New Jersey. His grandmother was a hairdresser with a salon in her home, and as a child, he would read the Archie and Harvey comics that she bought to amuse her clients' children. In his official bio, he also cited Saturday morning cartoons, including Space Ghost and the Herculoids, both great cartoons, as early influences. He attended the Pratt Institute in New York, graduating with a BFA in 1978. He spent the next 4 years working on his portfolio, sending submissions to Marvel and DC, and doing consulting on the side. And in 1982, just as he was about ready to give it up, he started getting work from Marvel, as well as Berkeley Books and some toy companies. Quote, granted, I wasn't making much, but I was spending more time working than I was going out and looking for work, unquote, he wrote. He did several stories for DC's House of Mystery, but he got tired of working on that title and let one sit on his desk for 2 months before finally turning it in. I received a kill fee for the work and was told that taking that long to do 5 pages was unacceptable.
Yeah.
I didn't get another chance to work at DC for years after that, mainly because I was not able to convince myself to call and ask. Things went better at Marvel, where editor Al Milgrom took an interest in his work and would critique Bright's samples when he brought them in. He eventually drew a story for Milgrom, but there was no work for a while. Just when he was ready to give up, Bright got a call from Marvel editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. He needed an artist for Captain America, and Milgrom had suggested Bright. When Bright turned in the pages, he recalled, Shooter looked at the pages, and somewhere around page 5, he put them down and looked at me. Captain America has a cleft in his chin, Mark. Shooter then gave him a quick storytelling lesson using one of Jack Kirby's Captain America comics as a guideline and sent him home to revise the pages. After that, Bright started working regularly for Marvel. Eventually, he began working with Larry Hama, whom he described as a, quote, no-nonsense guy, unquote, when it came to critiquing his work. Jim Owsley, who later changed his name to Christopher Priest, was Hama's assistant at the time. Jim Owsley was a little better, Bright recalled. He'd only make you feel stupid. Larry would make you feel stupid and ugly if the situation called for it.
Jim Shooter, what are your feelings on Jim Shooter, Chris?
Well, I got to work with him for a little bit at my company.
You had the pleasure, didn't you?
I did not have any pleasure at all.
It wasn't
my worst professional experience, honestly. And I'll preface this that by saying that, like, talking comics with somebody, he's the best. He's great. He knows all the stories and everything. And I had an hour phone call with him. All we did was talk about early Frank Miller and how the whole his side of things, how he came into the business and everything. Fascinating, but to work with it's not it's just not doable, it's far too stubborn.
I've heard that. I've heard another thing he would do is someone would come in with a story, present it to Jim, and he would like, no, work on this story. And he'd hand him something else. And then someone else would come in with a story idea. You go, no, work on this story. And he would hand him the story that somebody else just turned in that he said no, he didn't want him working on there. Yeah. And I think to a degree, that was a clever idea. because you're getting a fresh input on the on kind of the premise that someone else presented. But at the same time, you're taking people that are passionate about what they do away from the thing they're passionate about doing.
Yeah, like I'll just give you an example. Like, he did a short script for us that needed to be recorded. I used to do like corporate films and radio commercials and stuff in those days. So this is something that's going to actually be recorded, in a sound studio and everything. So in his script, I had to break up, I didn't change anything. I just like put commas in it and break up lines. So, because when you're doing sound recording, you want to get a piece, right? And so you have, you want pauses in the voice actors, performance so that you can make edits. So, after every completed thought, there's a pause so that we could edit, in case we got to pick and choose from different takes. Jim lost his fucking mind. Like, how dare you, alter my script? And I was like, I put commas in it so we could record it. And, and also you're not in charge yet, you're working for us. It's like, it's just one of those things where he can't accept not being in charge of everything, and so it just makes it impossible to, that was my experience. But, I will go on record and say that there was also the experience of the other guys that were working with us. That, we just had issues. And like I said, great guy to talk comics with. But you gotta be willing to butt heads with him if you want to make a comic book. And so.
Yeah. Nonetheless, Owsley had written a 4-issue miniseries, The Falcon, and he needed an artist. Bright started penciling with issue number 2, and while working together, they became friends. Later, when Owsley was writing Power Man and Iron Fist, he brought Bright in, and he penciled that series from issue number 110 to the end of its run with 125. Bright's other Marvel work during this period included Iron Man, Dazzler, and Solo Avengers Hawkeye, as well as the 1987 Spider-Man versus Wolverine one-shot. In 1988, he got a call from Owsley, who was at DC and needed an artist for his Green Lantern stories in Action Comics Weekly. The two struggled to keep up with the weekly schedule. At one point, Bright recalls he left the pencil pages in the bushes near Owsley's apartment late at night so Owsley could retrieve them, write the dialogue, and drive them to DC the next day. After that series was canceled, Owsley moved on, and Bright stayed at DC working on Green Lantern and doing a handful of Batman stories, as well as a run on G.I. Joe American Hero for Marvel.
That's a funny story. I think that's the stuff that I love most about working in this industry is, hearing some of those stories. Man, this is what we had to do. We're just running so behind. I'm dropping them off at night, so I don't wake them up. They're leaving them in the bushes so you can grab them in the morning and take them.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I love it.
Mark was pretty good. I mean, here's my boy Rob.
Here's a friend of yours.
Rob Liefeld autobiography. Go. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No, but just the last word on Mark. I mean, anybody that can handle a monthly schedule and put out good work, and Mark was able to do that. I mean, deserves respect, because that's no easy task.
No, it's not.
And, he did books I really enjoyed,
and he did a lot of books too.
Yeah, I love his Iron Man.
Did a large amount of work. Rob Liefeld autobiography coming in 2025 promises rebellion and betrayal.
Ooh, we love that. That's almost as good as Doom and Gloom.
Doom and Gloom, yes. Promising rebellion and portrayal. Rebellion and portrayal. Now, named famed comic creator and image partner Rob Liefeld and his publisher Bendella Publishing have announced that a Liefeld autobiography will be released in 2025, titled Robservations. The upcoming book will include behind-the-scenes anecdotes, reflections on his career, defining decisions, revelations of the inner workings of comic book publishers, and 10 original Liefeld illustrations.
That took him 5 years to complete.
Okay. Having been fortunate to break into the business as a teenager in the 80s, I've been 5 decades of tremendous I've seen 5 decades of tremendous change, quite a bit of upheaval, and a fair amount of rebellion and betrayal, Liefeld said in a statement accompanying the announcement, some of which I started.
I like that.
It's been quite a ride, and I'm eager to share this incredible ride with everyone.
Some of which I started. Yeah. That's right. I'm the guy walking away from the thing he just blew up.
And he's got to know his limitations. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. This is pretty cool. Award-winning editor Scott Dunn, who just left IDW, is starting his own publishing company. Former IDW special projects editor, created the artist edition format. We were just talking about all the good stuff he did. Well, guess what? He left. He's doing his own thing. Scott Dunn, who stepped down as IDW Publishing's special projects editor last week, has revealed the reasons why he left his job after 16 years. He is going to start his own publishing company. Dunn made the announcement in a Facebook post, but said that all details are under wraps for now, including the name of the new company. It's got to be better than Distillery.
Distillery
with no vowels. In the weeks to come, I will be filing paperwork to create it, and I will periodically update via social media, Dunn said in the post. My goal is to announce my first books, assuming things go as planned, at San Diego Comic-Con in July. Dunn was an executive editor.
Scott, please use vowels.
Please. Dunn was an executive editor at Wildstorm, which eventually became part of DC from 95 to 2007. And he started working at IDW Publishing in 2008. At Wildstorm, he edited Alan Moore's America's Best Comics line, which included The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, love that book, Promethea, and Tom Strong. At IDW, he edited numerous Eisner Award-winning archival collections and created the deluxe artist edition format, as well as editing the late Darwin Cook's adaptations of Richard Stark's Parker crime novels.
And I have to say that all 3 of those that were mentioned, his archive collections, his artisan editions, and Cook's work, are definite high points for that company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definite high points.
Yep. He has also edited a number of benefit anthologies, including the 2008 Liberty Comics and the 2022 Comics for Ukraine Sunflower Seeds. In 2023, he received the Eisner Awards Bob Clampett Humanitarian Award. Way to go. You know what? Everyone talks about how great Will Eisner was, but he never won an Eisner.
I do believe he did. I think he got the first one, like a Hall of Fame thing. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, do we want to talk about this morning? 3 graphic novels among the top 10.
Top 10 that were most challenged in libraries.
Yeah, we've beat this dead horse. Let's move on to something a little more interesting. Comic stores market shares, Q1. We love market share. Marvel Comics increased its market share in the first quarter of 2024, going from 36 to 38.9% compared to the fourth quarter of 2024. I think they meant 2023. While DC Comics slipped from 23.3 to 21.6. It's that Spider-Man book, I'm telling you.
Ultimate, yeah.
It's a good book. The spread between Marvel and DC reached 17.3 share points, the biggest we found looking back a year. In Q1 of 2023, the spread was only 11 share points.
Why did they even include that? Yeah, we went back a whole year on the stats.
A year, yeah. We went.
That's the widest spread.
We did our. I'm telling you, we're at ICV2. We do our homework.
Research.
We looked back a whole year.
Yeah.
Marvel got a strong boost from its Ultimate Universe relaunch, and Image Comics ticked up a bit with help from the Energon Universe titles, the Spawn number 350 issue, and the first Ghost Machine title. Boom Studios. You know, when you say it, you got to say it like that.
Boom.
Boom. Boom Studios share is at 3.3% in quarter one, less than it was for the past year. It had a 4.7% editors folks, it's a comma, 4.7% share in quarter one of 2023. Most of the other publishers had only small changes in market share percentage, but that was enough to reorder the chart, with Boom Studios moving from 4th to 6th place and Titan Comics moving up to 9th.
Titan Comics climbing because of the Conan Howard franchise. Yeah.
Yepers.
Great stuff.
Speaking of Space Ghost, is our last article for today. And before we move on to our next thingamabob.
Space Ghost, orders for Space Ghost #1 topped 67,000 after
That's
final order cutoff. Say what?
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a good number.
Another hit licensed title for publisher Dynamite Entertainment. Orders were at 33,500 with initial orders, so they more than doubled at FOC. Sales may still exceed 67,000. Orders on Dynamite's Thundercats 1 went from 100,000 to 170,000 between FOC and release. Those also are incredibly good numbers.
Very good numbers.
Just people are desperate out there to be entertained, and these licensed properties, they know, and as long as there's good talent behind them, they're going to get solid numbers.
Yep.
Space Ghost #1 is written by David Prepose and art by Jonathan Lau and covers by Francesco Mattina. A. J. Lee B. Bjorn Barrens C. and Michael Cho D. Blank Space Authentics E. and Francesco Mattina foil F. Release dates May 1st, 2020.
Let's see if we can see some of this. They don't have a gallery for it. Oh,
No, they sure don't.
They don't have a gallery for it. Well,
what's that crossover collection down below?
Ooh.
Look at that. Oh, it's a deck building game. All right, never mind.
It's a card game. Yeah.
It's
not really our news.
I heard they were going to package the crossovers. Finally, all the
into an omnibus. Yeah, it should be great.
Batman, a lot of good stuff there.
Well, guys, it is time for we've been at this about an hour. Let's go ahead and start moving into our subject, but let's have a quick
break
view. A quick view of this. A quick break. A word from our sponsors, if you will.
There we have it.
That bad boy is available right now on Fund My Comic. Guys, we need to make so just so we can let Woz understand what I mean by flipping the bird. Whenever anybody gives some money out, like whenever they're throwing the money out, right? They back a project, super chats, new memberships. We say they're flipping us the bird. And so they can flip us the bird. And here's just a preview of what we hope to see this morning. Gotta make that bird dance. Gonna make that bird dance. So I got a lot of questions for you, Chris.
Sure.
So you started really making comics back in kind of the early. I mean, I was young. I was born in '80. So if you were doing your first books in '83, you don't look that old.
I've aged a lot in the last 10 years. But I think my first, wow. When I was 19, we had our first studio. We were drawing some Christian comics for some church in Manhattan that we're trying to publish, get into that. That was like the first studio experience of, guys, with drawing boards in a room, cranking out comics. And after that, and from that, I got to be Art Nichols' assistant, thinking assistant. And Art, was doing a ton of work for Marvel and DC. He used to actually do too much work. You go to his apartment, the stack of pages would be like, 10 inches high of work that he owed. And, he'd just be, ripping through them for days and days, no sleep, that type of thing. And then out of that, I started to get some inking work at DC, and eventually penciling, But I think, my first, I think it's 86, actually. The first thing I got to do on my own, I inked the Justice League cover over Luke McDonald. I don't know if anybody remembers, but it was the low rent Justice League, when Gypsy shot, like before the Kevin McGuire reboot. So it was the Luke McDonald run
When they were based in Detroit.
Right, Gypsy and all those guys, yeah.
Vibe, yeah.
Yeah, because I used to do sample pages inking over Luke, because they didn't know if they were going to have an inker for his last 3 issues. And I did, some samples, and they liked it well enough. They let me do a cover. And then, and then I was stupid enough to show some pencil samples, and they were like, "You can draw?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then they started giving me like, penciling work. But I did a little inking. The first year I was doing a little inking and a little penciling,
So what was it like the first pencil job that you got? Like just kind of share that experience. Like what was it like for a young Wozniak getting out there?
The first penciling gig I ever got, before I got my first official penciling assignment, I did ghost an issue of one of Shooter's New Universe books. I ghosted an issue of the football one, Kickers, I think it was called.
Okay.
Kickers Incorporated. Yeah.
Yeah, that was for Alan Kupperberg, who did super loose layouts, and they wanted Art Nichols to finish them, and Art didn't have time, so they let me pencil it. And so it was the very last issue. I got literally the book I canceled as we were turning in the last of the pages. So that was the first penciling thing I ever got, my toe in. But at DC, they had, we just selling 67,000 copies. Those are good numbers. Well, at DC, when I was showing samples, I was up in Andy Helfer's office, and Dick Giorgiano walked in and said, "We got to cancel the Spectre because it fell under 60,000 copies." That was their cutoff. They were like,
wow.
If it's under 60,000, it gets the axe. So at that time, I was penciling. I was on my second issue of a Creeper miniseries that Keith Giffen had written. But it was one of those, it wasn't on the schedule type things. It was just like a back burner project. They let me do. And, and so Dick Giordano told Andy, he said, unless, there's, the writer, really wants to stay on the book. And it was Doug Mensch, and Doug liked doing the character, and Andy was like, he does like this. He wants to, he likes the series. So they actually had consideration for that. And they're like, okay, well, you got to replace the artist then, and you got to do it by Monday. And so,
no rush.
Yeah. And So Andy's like, well, how am I going to find an artist by Monday? And then Dick Daniel just went like this, give it to him. Because I was sitting there. And Andy turned to me and said, you want to draw the Spectre? And I was like, sure. And that was that. And that's how I got some penciling work doing some early Spectre issues.
So what did it feel like that first month when you've got artist cred on a book, walking into the local comic shop and seeing your name there?
Yeah, I was just trying to, figure it out because, I was an okay inker, but like penciling was new to me. It wasn't new to me, but I hadn't really dedicated myself to it. It was just like, I think I could draw, and it's one of those things, and I do it well enough. Like, it's weird because to this day, I've never used the term that I'm an artist. I'm a guy that can make comic books. I know how to put a story together and how to tell a story and everything, but I would never go, look, I'm an artist with a capital A. It's not in me to say that because, I can ink, I could pencil, I could write, I could letter and color if I have to, so, like I'm a guy that makes comic books.
Storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me kind of go that direction then. What was your favorite part about telling these early stories, kind of in your days, and what was something that you learned that has stuck with you probably the longest?
Well, initially, I think it was before the Spectre, even when they gave me the Creeper series, Keith Giffen used to write visually. He would come in with 22 typewriter-sized pages of visual layouts. And he, told me he would just start on page 1 and not know where he's going and end up on page 22 with a finished story.
Chris, I hate to interrupt you, but we have to flip you the bird.
Yeah, we pick somebody up.
You picked up 2 backers.
Oh,
so yeah, there you go. This bird's for you, Chris. And you know what? Since you had 2, let's go ahead and, enjoy the biscuit.
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce.
Boy, taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit.
Yes. I may taste it again later when it comes back up.
Yeah. There you go.
But Keith Giffen, like being in the presence of Keith Giffen was an eye opener because, he would turn in his plots in visual form. There were, it was just pictures with the most basic notes like you could imagine. But he told the story visually with so little. There was like, if you've ever seen Keith's layouts, there's like nothing to them, yet everything that you need is there. And you could, if you wanted to, literally just trace off his layouts and finish the drawings. And from that, you would have a really good functional comic. I didn't know that, like that was an option to redraw. Just the way that he could, get it across visually. It was almost like going back to, the Marvel, how to draw the Marvel way. And the first time you saw that eye opener, of how it was all put together. But, watching a guy do it in real time, month after month, or Andy being on the phone and saying, bring in a new issue of Justice League. And, Keith would show up 3 hours later and have it in his hand, that type of thing. It was kind of wild. So Keith left an impression, on his workflow and his ability to communicate visually. Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of emerging artists miss. Everyone's a cover artist or they do pinups, but very few are applying themselves to sequential storytelling. I know I'll never be the cover artist that some of these guys are out there. Like if I spend enough time on it, I can add all the extra little lines in there. But I know where my strength is going to be in the dynamic paneling and storytelling aspect of things. And so that's what I spend probably 90% of my time learning and trying to focus on. When I read your book, that's what stood out to me. The art is good. You're extremely capable at art. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Thank you.
But it was just the storytelling. Even this panel we have up here, the gist of it, the movement, the energy, the interesting aspects of it, the buildings, the stuff in the foreground. I really liked the way that you put the panels together, how you paste the pages, and though you're telling a lot of story in a very short amount of time here.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead. How many pages? How many pages is this book?
32. Every issue is going to be 32 pages.
Wow. Okay. So, you get a lot of story in there. So do you have any kind of tips or secrets for fitting a lot of story in a short amount of space?
I as much as I love Stan and his approach to everything, I think, for my sensibilities, type of guy when it comes to story, I like a tight story for myself. So I tend to write full scripts even for myself. I'll start with postcards and everything of what I think is going to happen. And
Wow.
I don't start typing anything until I can see the entire thing through, because what you just brought up is what's most important to me: the pacing and the atmosphere, and nailing that story down so that it does pay off at the end. You want to feel like you've been somewhere. What I hate most in the world is to read a comic book and then I forgot that I read it. That is worthless to me. I just don't care for it. I want a story that stays with you and basically one that you read once and you just will always remember, hopefully. And so, by writing a full script, even for myself, I know I could hit that pace. Timing is really important, to story. Pacing is really important. I think atmosphere is uber important. And also, but more than anything else, I think reaction shots are a lost art. Just silent panels where someone just the reaction shot is something that really draws the reader in through the characters, and makes it come to life. And I think that's something that guys ignore, but he still came from old school comic book storytelling, and so it's really like art wise, I'm trying to stay in the vein of Toth, and I'm thinking his weird war stuff, weird war tales, and the Mazzucchelli, simplified, Batman Year One type deal, and Miller, and so that's why I came with this drawing style. Is new for me. This entire approach, this style, this look. I made it. I basically started with panel one, knowing what I kind of thought I wanted, and just tried to make it. And by the time I got to the end of the book, I had figured it out.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention that next. Is that when I look at your older stuff and this book, it almost looks like when you told me that you did the art for it, I was a little surprised.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, because it's not really the same style that I'm used to seeing come from you, but there's something so beautifully intriguing about it. It's so aesthetically pleasing for me, and I think it fits the story that if it was drawn any other way, I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be right. It was the right aesthetic for this.
That's the important part, and that's something. It's something where I do completely agree with Shooter. Like everything has to serve this story. Like drawing all the seams on the costume and the shoelaces and everything. It doesn't advance any the reader experience at all. And very dark, and noirish. And so, I had to strip back everything, A, to be able to execute everything on my own, but B, it's what was required of the story. So I had to relearn my approach, to make sure that the stories, when you were done reading them, were as effective as possible. So,
Chris, I don't know if you see this or not, but you're up to 11 backers.
oh, there we go.
And we got to make that bird dance again.
Woo!
Uh-oh.
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce.
All right. Yeah, look at those. I like seeing numbers like that.
Yeah, there we go.
Keep bringing it on, folks. Keep bringing it on.
It's
I
funny.
know Chris appreciates it.
The ladies, guys playing a Casio keyboard. I'm literally wearing a Casio watch. So, yeah, but that's, I think, was the most important thing is turning up a look that would marry well with the stories. The stories are everything in this. The art is only there to serve the story, and so that's I know I figured out what the scenes are going to be, and I get that across, and then I move on to the next panel. I don't sit there and render it to death, or I just get the storytelling done. If it comes alive in my mind, then that's what I want, and then I move on to the next scene.
All right, so we just had a backer for we got to make the bird dance again.
Oh,
Yep.
Because we have another backer for the Shadow Kingdom.
Thank you, Levi, very
Yes,
much.
thank you very much. Let's make the bird dance. I mean, it's like Mr. Bean on vacation holiday. I mean, the birds are just a flying today. I mean, just a
Good.
flying.
That's awesome.
I love seeing that.
Russ says thanks as well, Levi. Thank you very much.
That's a busy Boyd.
That's a busy boy.
It certainly is a busy Boyd. I love the dynamics of this panel and where this panel comes into the story and what it reveals to the reader. Spot on, dude. Spot on.
Yeah.
I'm not giving away any spoilers here,
But that's like I'm not doing variant covers or anything. The issue is the cover that's appropriate for the story. It's always a tie into the story. You're never going to see the main character on the cover. It's just like a story element that teases,
nice.
The payoff of the story. And so,
a little bit of the that effect that they did so masterfully on Breaking Bad, where they would start with just this little clip of like, well, crap, where's that come in at? And then you finally get the payoff in the story. And we were watching an episode last night with my kid, and it started with, blood dripping on Walter's shoe.
Yeah.
And then, and so we kind of get to that point, and I realized that we'd been watching this show called Fire Country, which that show, I think at this point, I started out interested in it. Now it's entertaining because it's so predictable, and it's almost laughable how extreme things are. It's like a soap opera, really, for people that like firefighters or whatever. And so it cracks me up. But they try to do that thing where they'll start with this moment, and then you figure it out 5 or so minutes into it, like who it is that's going to, like what that moment is foreshadowing. Yeah. And it's just not as sad. They just miss it,
Yeah. If you hit things too on the head, there's nothing to look forward to. And, and entertainment, would be it, comics or movies or music, anything, where you going? If you telegraph where you're going, there's no point in going there. It's like, it's ridiculous. There's no journey,
Right.
So you gotta hold back. You gotta trust that your audience is not filled with stupid people, and that they're gonna follow you, and and try to be entertaining.
This guy looks like John Wick.
That's actually he's based modeled off for young William Shatner. I don't know if anybody's gonna see it, but that's too much. It's the initial guide that I pulled up to, but a lot of people are saying that he looks a bit like John Wick.
I love the contrast that you have in this book. The your experience with inking, it shows here.
Yeah, every issue is monotone with a different spot color that ties into the story reveal. Like the first issue is gold, second issue is blue. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see the issue for the second cover, how that second issue is going to look. And so that's how it's going to go throughout the series. I'm looking to get 12 done. I've got stories for 8, and the ones that are not, fully fleshed out, I do have loose outlines. I know where they're going. Yeah, that's issue 2, the cover. And again, we're not going to see, the cover's going to have something to do with the story itself. It's not.
I'm noticing this crow tends to be a theme.
Yeah.
I like this. Guys, you are not going to be disappointed with this book. I said, Chris sent me an early preview of it leading up to the Pontificators episode I was on recently. And my goodness, I read it. I read it that Wednesday before the show. And so I'm a little distracted when I come on because I'm still thinking about the story and how interesting it was. Comics are meant to entertain, and you're certainly doing that with this book. You really are. Now, but what I want to talk about for a little bit is this this transition from working for bigger publishers and filling out the voucher, getting paid, to being the guy that's in charge of this whole thing, not just the creative aspect, but also the marketing and the campaigning, and what it's been like trying to balance those two aspects of this business.
Yeah, that's the new challenge, right? To be able to do it, to make the comic, and and also have time to promote it, build the social media following and everything. Those things are now married, for independent publishing. So, it's one of those things, if you're not willing to take that on to some extent, and I'm new at it, I try to stay off of social media as much as possible, but now, okay, throw my hat in the ring with a new comic. So, I have to be out there, but it is a whole different world. But, what's rewarding about it is that, okay, I'm getting really good reaction to, the first issue of Barren Soil. It's seemingly from everybody. It seems to be like the people who are reading it, it's a little bit of a darling book. And that's a big deal because there's no other writer, there's no inker, there's no colorist. I'm doing everything right to the lettering, and and I invented this style, this streamlined look, so that I could do everything myself and not count on anybody else. And I think it's working. Certainly, the second issue I expect to be better than the first issue. So that's the goal, is to make everyone a really memorable comic book, and each issue that stands on its own. But as you go along, you see that they are strung together. So it really is a true anthology.
Yeah, I think most people have, especially in this industry, independence. We love we got into it because we love the creative aspect of it. We love writing. We love drawing. We like telling the stories. That is what we want to do. If that's all I ever had to do, that would be fine by me. But when you are kind of your own boss and you own this stuff, which is kind of a two-edged sword, right? Like, you get to own it and it's yours forever, and whatever happens, it's yours. And you actually, your success and failure all kind of rides on your shoulders. When you're marketing or campaigning or shipping or all that stuff, you're not doing the other things that you prefer to do.
Yeah.
You're not creating the book that you want to create so badly. And so there is this balance in time between the two. And how do you feel that balance of time is working out, and what are you learning in this process?
Well, my first issue went a little slow because, it was a new book, new characters, new style. I wasn't even sure. I just had a vague idea of what I wanted it to look like, but I never attempted to draw like that. So, there was a feeling out process until you, oh, I like that. That looks good. That works. That gets my point across. And so, you spend most of your first issue developing this shorthand so that you could, communicate with the reader. And, I think thankfully now I'm over that, and I'm ready on my second issue to try to kick a little more ass on it, but now I know where it's going. And the fact that I took the time before I did issue 2 to pull all the stories out and make sure that they're married and will follow through all the way through 12. I've actually ending for issue 12 is written, and it impressed me that. So I was very happy there. So now that I see the whole series, and now I'm focused on, plowing through. I do feel like Ahab. Like I really, really, really want to draw that last scene in that last issue. So it's going to take a while to get there, but that's.
So how do you break up your time between, learning? I mean, you've got to learn marketing. You've got to learn all of the publishing stuff. I mean, and you have some experience with that before with the other company. But as you said, somebody else handled the money side. You handled the creative side. Now that kind of, you're doing all of that now for yourself. How are you finding the segmenting of time? Do you create a schedule for yourself? How do you manage that?
Well, I'm forced into a specific schedule because I have an 11-year-old. Even if, it's one of those things where, I know 7 o'clock in the morning, I got to drive her to school. And so, I don't want to be up all night before I have to do that. Or, after school, you want to have time and dinner. So you want some normalcy built into your schedule if you've got family or, And so for me, I just make sure I get to drawing kind of, I tend to save writing for late night, unless I've got, like I'm in the thick of writing a particular issue, then I will, no exaggeration, throw a mattress down in front of the fireplace, stockpile a week's worth of wood, and I'll just sit there and type until I've got a story 7 days later. That's generally what it takes me to do. A full script is 7 days. And so, that's basically my workflow. When I'm in writing mode, I don't do anything else. I literally, my girlfriend will bring me food and water and say, don't forget to eat, because I'm sitting there. I'll just bang away until I fall asleep. No idea that fits, and then I gotta work that in. So, that's where I am. When it's time to draw, I try to keep a real schedule. I try to get up early, start early, get as much as I can get done until I get tired or need a nap. At my age, how it is.
Yeah, that's what I find too. Like as I'm drawing, like I get up early. I get up at 8 at the latest. 8 at the latest. Usually about 7:30 with my wife. She's getting ready to get to work. I go. I get my coffee made. I see her off to work, and then she has to be at work at 8:30. So do I. That's how I just say, I can work whenever I want, but I'm like, no, I have to be at work at 8:30. I come in. I do some of my comic stuff. Kind of get that day, the evening stuff, all the stuff that came in the afternoon and evening, and I work until probably 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then I try to take an evening, so I'm with my family. I didn't used to do that, and I found that I was very unhappy, and I never want to make art and creating an unhappy thing. So I found that I had to set those blocks of time, and I actually set blocks of time. Like Thursday, I never planned to get any art done. But yesterday we had a power outage, so now this afternoon is balls to the wall art, right? So sometimes that happens. But I plan certain days are going to be certain activities. And Fridays are typically finish up any art stuff that definitely has to be done before the weekend. And then I do really all of my marketing planning for both Arrow and for my comic and Lucasstone Studios for the week, like any kind of like big publishing ideas, things that we need to do. I tend to do that on Friday. That's the long day for my wife. She doesn't get off till 6:30. She only gets off at 4:30. So I know I'm going to work until 7 or 8 typically. And we're going to order pizza for dinner. And then I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to eat a piece of pizza and probably crash on the couch because I've been working for 10 hours straight on a Friday, Friday morning, all the way to Friday evening. So I find that I kind of have to block those times out.
Yeah.
But there are times I don't understand. What is it about writing that makes you kind of go off into this? I call it the rabbit hole. How is that?
It's the easiest world to trip into and stuck in, because all it takes is a thought process, and then you try and write it down. Yeah, writing for me comes super easy. Like if you ask me that, we need a script for a goldfish next week. Okay, see you Thursday. Here's your script. Drawing, that's a whole other world. Drawing work for me. I think it always has been. I think writing just comes easier. Drawing is the work. So.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I'm completely the opposite. It's like I can see the story that I want in my head and I can put that down on the page. But when it comes to, because I usually will just like how you were discussing earlier, draw the whole scene and then be like, okay, what needs to be said here? What did I not communicate in the drawing? Then that's kind of how I end up writing.
I found myself kind of doing both things. Like some stories I'll just start drawing and I'll draw what I think looks cool. And then I'll write I know where the plot's going, but no, I write out beats. I typically will write out the end of where I want it to go and where I want it to start. And then all the beats in between. And then I'll write the connective tissue.
Yeah.
And then I won't like script out the page, but like panels, I will write what's going to be on each page. So I know what content I need to put on there. However many panels it takes for me to get there, doesn't matter. I'm just going to get there. But yeah, but there's something about writing that, because I think you go into a different world. Art doesn't do that for me. Like I for a moment, I'll get lost for a couple hours in drawing a piece and kind of living in that space. But when I'm writing, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? And it's a lot wrestling with myself on the choices I want to settle on. So tell me a little bit more about your process for writing when it comes to that. How do you, so let's say I say, hey, I need a story about a goldfish. What's the process? What are you going to do to write? Because Mike Barron does the same thing. Like somebody will say, hey, I need a story about a pot smoking fox. And he writes a freaking story about a pot smoking fox. If you come to me and say, Luke, I need you to write a story about, a monk with gingivitis, I'm going to be like, go kick rocks. I don't care about monks with gingivitis. I don't want to write that. I only write what I want to write. Now I'll draw it. So how do you do that? What's your process? Where do you go?
I always, knowing the material, like with Barren Soil, I know who the characters are now, so I know what I have to, come up with. But generally speaking, for a comic book type story, I come up with what I call the oh shit moments. It's going to be that third act turning point, and then your big payoff ending, and then there I know, right? That's the meat and potatoes. So I know I need a super interesting hook in the beginning that will carry you over to that turning point and to the ending. So that's where I begin, and it basically.
So you start with the oh shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then move to the ending.
Yeah. It's
and
like
then go to the beginning. I've never tried that.
It's like writing a riddle. You think of the answer. You come up with the question.
Yeah, I do it in reverse. So I come up with the ending, then figure out what my oh crap moment's going to be, and then move backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I need to know that I go through the effort of making this whole comic book. It's going to pay off. So I come up with the ending first, and then I write to it. And then, I have little scenes and stuff that I've done on the just, indications on index cards, my notes. And then basically once I have word, I'm a big fan of what I call the, then but way of writing, which is like, then my character will do this, but this bullshit happens and, it's all fucked up. And so, just by that will write you out of any hole,
Okay.
Also will stop you from doing
You kind of cut out for a second.
Oh.
Can you say that bit again?
Yeah.
On the, like, go back about 30 seconds. And
so, my process,
you did it again.
process for writing, to connect the dots of my index card notes to the then but method, which then my character does this, but this really fucked up thing happens and kicks direct. And I just did that, weaving my way along my cards, just, okay, I know where I got to go to the next card, write a really good scene that gets you there. And I know where that's to get there. And doing it like that, then eventually I know I'm getting to my big oh shit moment, my good turning point, my big ending. So you start to just feel real confident about where that story's going,
I like what you were talking about, the then but.
Yeah.
So then this happens, but this crazy thing.
I can't remember where I picked that up from. It might have been or something. I was like, oh, that's. And I think it was really like that, and didn't even realize that there was something that I liked and did or enjoyed, but once you have and the other thing I love to do if I'm writing something that's a serial, a continuation, if you got to is to write the most ridiculous cliffhanger that fucking everyone is dying to know what's going to happen next, but I don't. It's like I was like, all right. Next, I guess I got to be clever this year. So I appreciate that adventurous aspect to telling stories and stuff. Yeah.
So Hojo here says, I couldn't write a superhero story as easy as I can with other genres. I wouldn't know how to take it seriously. So let me ask, how do you, if you're prompted to write a story about a goldfish, how do you take something seriously that you normally wouldn't?
Well, Barren Soil are just thriller stories that I had. I mean, and so to make it a comic book, I put the main character in costume, but it doesn't need to be. If it was on television, you could take them out of costume. The stories work absolutely fine. The visual hook of the costume is to make the comic book more visually interesting. But the hero doesn't have powers. Nobody flies in this universe. It's the fact that there's a superhero aspect to Barren Soil is incidental. I like the way it works, but out of costume, the stories work just fine.
Works just the same, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're working for somebody else. Let's say I hire you. How do you, because this idea that, you've written stories for a lot of different things, and maybe not stuff that you were terribly interested in. How do you find a way to get interested in the things that maybe don't typically interest you when you're writing for something else?
Well, I write myself into a corner on purpose. Like I said, coming up with something that even you don't expect, and not knowing, just like everyone else, not knowing, whoa, what's going to happen next? If to figure out, whoa, hang on a second, where is this going? I would feel the same way because I don't know. If I have that feeling, then I know it works for the reader. But now the problem is, got to go figure out how to get out of this jam. Write yourself out of it. And so that I do that purpose. I will write something that a little scene might have a cliffhanger just to keep the stories propelled forward. To make sure we're pushing towards the payoff at the end. And so by doing that, and I don't know why, but I just have the confidence. I guess I've just read so much that I have the confidence to know, okay, here's the scene with that, with that little cliffhanger, or the end of the actual issue with a cliffhanger. I'm not doing cliffhangers in this; they're self-contained stories. But just to end the scene on some kind of, a weird cliffhanger, I know I can come back and figure out a cool way to write myself out of it. And that keeps it exciting and it keeps it propelled forward. And, and if I get a little buzz when I come up with that scene, then I know that
it's going to work.
The reader's going to feel it too. Like if I got excited writing it, then he's going to be excited reading it because he knows even less than I do.
So I like that. In order to be excited about it, you create an exciting moment that thrills you, and then you can write really anything if you're excited about it, right? So, when you're talking about that put yourself in a tough situation and how you're going to get out of it, there's a couple of shows that I think did a great job with that growing up that I loved. First and foremost, MacGyver. There's always a tough situation. How are you going to get out of it, right? And but the other one, oddly enough, that I thought did a really good job, was Walker, Texas Ranger. And there's one episode that really comes to mind where Walker and the lawyer lady that he's engaged to, that they're trying to get evidence to court to get this businessman, powerful criminal guy, put behind bars. And this guy hires someone to shoot their plane down over a lake, right? And so as they get shot and they're floating in the lake, they somehow survive the crash, and they're floating in the lake. And this guy, he's got guns, right? So this old fighter plane, and he's coming down, and he misses him the first pass. He comes around, and he's going to second pass, and you're like, they're sitting ducks. There's no way they're going to get out of this. And you're like, how's this going to resolve? And right the last second, he's runs out of bullets. And you're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, they're so good at writing that tense moment.
You got to build those, you build the expectation. And, if you're writing well enough that the reader is worried and engaged about the fate of the character, even if it's not a good guy, if he needs to know, then, you could use that to keep momentum in the story.
Yeah. There was so much that was kind of corny about the production of Walker, Texas Ranger, but the writing, like the Cliff writing, was always spot on. The resolution, I always knew how it was going to end. Chuck Norris was going to punch someone or kick someone. There was going to be a roundhouse kick. Yeah, Bunny. There was going to be a roundhouse kick involved, and he was going to kick the bullets back to them. Like that's how it was. Like that's how it's going to go. So much so that after I've been kind of revisiting some of these old shows, that I almost want to write like just some really stupid scene where my big power character just grabs some bullets and flips them at people and it's killing them.
Yeah. I love 70s television. I watch a lot of cop shows, especially. I love Columbo.
Yes. Did you ever watch Mike Hammer?
No, I don't. I tend to buy them and then watch them.
Okay. Because I did get a sense of a little bit of that Columbo vibe in Barren Soil with that kind of crime noir thing, but I also got a little bit of a hint of Mike Hammer. Like there's a little bit in the pacing, which I love that show. I mean, it's very 70s private investigator kind of tropey, but it's what created the tropes, I think.
Yeah, but it's a great trope. I mean, those books, like, they stick with you. Like I used to voraciously read mystery novels, and back when I was a messenger, when I was at high school, I had a shitty job walking the streets in New York delivering envelopes, but I was outside all day, and I would stop in bookstores like every opportunity. And in Manhattan, they actually had just bookstores that were exclusively mystery bookshops. There were quite a few of them. And so you could walk into a small bookstore, nothing but mystery paperbacks on every shelf. Mm-hmm. And it's a gold mine, and I still remember picking up things like Lawrence Sanders, like First Deadly Sin, and that type of thing, like a good mystery that will just stick with you forever, for life. And you'll just if it's well paced, and the Tom Clancy books of the 80s, and Red Storm Rising, and those things, those were great adventures to be.
So I've heard some talk recently. It's popped up in a couple of conversations that I've had that, you know, there was the paying your dues thing, and how coming up in comics the way that you did and so many other people did, Art T. Bear, Aaron Lepresti, Graham Nolan, these guys, you know, some of your friends like Rob Liefeld, who gave a glowing review of your book for your trailer. Great. Fantastic. These guys, there was kind of a different way of getting into the industry and learning. But now I think for the last decade and a half, 2 decades, we've really seen a real switch in what it means to get into the comic book industry, that corporate comics are not as strong. You can still go that route, but it's not as lucrative and it's not as appealing to a lot of new people out there, artists, writers, colorists, and such, as being independent. And so self-publishing through social media, crowdfunding, that's really kind of growing. And so what I'm noticing is some of these young guys are learning a lot from the veterans, the pros, on what it means to make comics, because we don't have bullpens anymore. We have the internet. So this is kind of how we learn from each other. But I'm also kind of noticing that the veterans are learning this new online marketing thing, this new world.
That's me.
Kind of from the young guys, right?
Yeah.
So what has been the most eye-opening thing you've learned through this process of trying to crowdfund your book?
Well, you know, I'm in my first baby steps of crowdfunding, you know, so I'm a lot to learn about, like, all of it. So, you know, but I'm making my mistakes, like, you know, like you need to do. And then, you know, guys will say, hey, you know, maybe that's not a good idea. And, you know, people that you trust and you know, can count on, you know, are there for you to share, you know, like, you know, that they've walked this path already. You know, I mean, you know, guys from my generation, we know how to make comic books, you know, hopefully. But, you know, to step into this whole world, because I don't, you know, there was a different system then. You had to go through basically an apprenticeship and work your way up into, you know, being good enough to work for the big two. That was, you know, only real available outlet if you wanted to draw comics. You know, there in the early 80s, there were some small independent first comics, Pacific, you know, they were doing good stuff. You know, there was a little bit of an indie revolution, but, you know, primarily, you know, that didn't last past the mid 80s, but primarily only had Marvel and DC. And so, you know, you had to basically, you know, live in that world, and they controlled your fate, you know. And now that, you know, I think as a result of both Marvel and DC basically shitting on creative people, and not sharing, you know, anything, you know, because if you create a new character for Marvel or DC, either company, you don't own any of it, you know, you get none of it. So why would anybody create the new Wolverine? Why would you come up with the new, you know, it was Jack Kirby's initial bitch in the 60s. It's like, I'm not going to give them another Silver Surfer, you know, like, you know, when I get nothing out of it, you know, just getting a paycheck and I, you know, sent on my way. And so that's why we're in a market where Marvel and DC, you know, what is DC's market share? We just saw it's now 20%. That's ridiculous. It used to be 50. You know, 20% is awful, and for a company of that size with the characters that they have. However, no one will create anything new for them, and no one has for over 10 years, you know, and they're stuck with, you know, like doing 90 variations of Batman and, you know, 20 variations of Spider-Man. You know, it's just like, you know, they're watering down, you know, the icon, you know, franchise characters. They're watering them down to the point of being pointless. And in some of these books, it's not even Spider-Man or Batman that's in it. It's all alternate versions, you know, for whatever reason, you know, and it's not anything that anybody cares about, you know.
I think what I've seen most is it's created apathy from the fans. And the worst thing you can have is an apathetic fan.
Yeah.
You want them to truly care, and people just don't.
Yeah.
They've done the same thing with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, people were so dedicated to that franchise, to that IP, and now people are utterly
they're giving up.
Yeah, we've given up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one cares. No
Yeah.
one cares. And it's sad. It really is. And I think that's what makes indie comics, independently owned, creator-owned comics and characters so much more exciting, is that the people writing it care. The people drawing it care so much. They're passionate about it.
And eventually we're going to have breakout series and characters that like transcend the early movement and become the new Ninja Turtles or something. That's I think that's an eventuality because of, at least in this little indie creating creator-owned boom, that like it relative to what Marvel and DC are putting out. This is at least these are new ideas. These are fresh concepts. And so and fresh eyeballs and fresh approach on things. And so there is something to explore here. Just like the early indies boom in the 80s, like I said, with First Comics, doing Elric and American Flag, those things. Those were viable alternatives to Marvel and DC comics. They were basically all non-superhero comics for the most part. Oh, there we go. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoa.
O.J. Simpson dead at 76.
76.
Wow.
Yep.
Breaking news, just posted 11 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
The juice is finally
Yeah, the
loose.
juice. Well, I'm telling you what, if anybody could get away with murder.
Yeah. That's funny. I just read the book maybe 3 months ago. You read it? And I was just about to start Marcia Clark's book.
Yep.
Now I might have to dig back in.
There you go.
Did he leave a note?
No, his family confirmed that he died of cancer, is what the note says here.
Okay.
It says the former NFL star died Wednesday in Las Vegas. His family confirmed.
No deathbed confession.
Yeah. He died. He died after a battle with cancer.
Yeah.
So, end of an era there, of course.
Wow.
We're still doing pretty good over here. 11 backers. Nobody else has flipped you the bird. I'm going to share the link out again. I know it's been a minute since we've posted that in here, so I'm going to share the link for that, and also the Shadow Kingdom. Now, before we get into the next topic, we're going to have a word from one of our sponsors, and that's going to be Air Comics and the Shadow Kingdom. Here, let me play the trailer for the Shadow Kingdom. Let me find it. Got to find it. Can't seem to find anything today. Here we go.
In the time before Atlantis sank and the lands of the world were savage and untamed, one man would claim his destiny, leaving his Atlantean tribe behind and throwing off the shackles of Lemurian bondage. He sailed the seas as a pirate captain before seizing his place as a king. And now that he has the throne, how long will he be able to keep it? This is the Shadow Kingdom, the classic sword and sorcery tale by Robert E. Howard, adapted by Randy Zimmerman, with artwork by Russ Leach. Available now at funmycomic.com. Funmycomic.com, folks. Shadow Kingdom.
Funmycomic.com. Check it out.
This close to being a 5-figure campaign. Can't thank people.
So close. Yeah, let's take a look at that real quick. Just because, I mean, that is, Randy, that'll be your first 5-figure campaign, won't it?
It will, yes. But it's not really mine. It's Russ's art that's carrying it, and a phenomenal story by Robert E. Howard. That just great. This is recognized as the first sword and sorcery story, the one that started the genre rolling, and also the first story that begins the urban myth of shape-shifting lizard people.
Russ just
so there you go.
I know
Russ
you're watching right now.
Yeah.
Just a tremendous job on the artwork, Russ. I can't. Some of the best work. I'm humbled to be in the
the
presence of such great artists.
I had it easy on this because there was an open page count. I didn't have to keep to a rigid format. Broke the story down naturally as Howard had wrote it. There were so many great natural beats in this. You know, you want to end every page with a nice kickoff to try to propel your reader into the next page. This literally broke itself down and was just a joy to write up the script. It's a faithful adaptation, and I'm aware of the other adaptions that have been done, but they're not nearly as faithful to the original material as this is. We use as much of Howard's prose in this as we possibly can, and he was such a unique and amazing writer that we've even thrown the prose story in the back of this book just so you can compare the two. It's just a great story, and that Russ's artwork just amplifies it.
Really does.
Really does.
Very exciting stuff. It's a great time to be a comic book fan, I think, you know.
And getting into this too, this is Cull's first story. He just becomes king of Volusia, and it's the first of this type, like I said, that Howard ever wrote. And Howard put so much of himself into the character of Cull. He's introspective. He's almost overthinking. He's a real character in this story, and it really comes through. You see that a lot in this tale. Cull is very different from his later creation Conan, in that Conan is a hack and slash and give me some ale and give me a woman and you know, your typical barbarian, where Cull has these barbarian urges and he has the bloodlust that kicks in, but he's also very introspective. He's a very private person, and he has a really kind of a rough time wrapping his head around the thought that there are still these supernatural elements running around in his reality. And it's a great read.
Very thoughtful character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very thoughtful character, and I very much interested to see this adaptation.
There's a lot of incredible action in this. All of the sword and sorcery tropes begin here with the Shadow Kingdom. Yeah.
I love sword and sorcery stuff. Michael Moorcock.
Yeah, great stuff.
And as Russ said earlier, just because it's a trope doesn't mean it's bad.
Exactly. Yep.
So, all right. So, something I did want to talk with you about. Now, this is, you know, I've obviously heard of your name, you know, in the industry there for a while, you know, but there's a lot of names that, you know, come up and they kind of pop into your peripheral and things like that. And then go away and then come back again, just based on the work they're doing. But there was something very interesting a couple of years ago when the Patterson Batman movie came out, and there was a subsequent lawsuit about IP theft.
Yep.
And your name is at the center of that.
Yeah.
And I would love to get the story a little bit from you, but I also want to be able to offer some cautionary advice to everyone watching today on how to handle something like this. So I'll give you the floor.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Basically, you know, how it all came to be is there was a Riddler story that I pitched way back in 1990 to Archie Goodwin, and you know, subsequently pitched to DC, a couple times since, and I gave that story to Michael Uslan, the executive producer of the films. So, you know, and unbeknownst to me, from everything that we uncovered, it seemed like they were trying to use that story literally within months of me, pitching it without my name attached to it. Because, I gave that story to Uslan in April 2008, and just 4 months later, that summer, after the second Christopher Nolan film, they're announcing that the next flick is definitely going to be Warner Brothers executives. The next flick is it's going to be the Riddler, and and rumored to be a serial killer story. And Riddler had never been portrayed like that ever until my take on the character, reinventing that character. But and I was unaware of these things, all that time, like between the time I had submitted the story and until the Reeves version was on HBO. And so when I finally saw it on HBO, I was like, motherfucker, they took my name off the story and fucking used it. I couldn't believe it. I was infuriated. So, eventually, I had to make a stink to be able to afford to bring a lawsuit. And so, that's where the whole Batman Gate thing came from. And so, eventually we got the lawsuit underway. I found legal representation. We got the lawsuit going and everything. And, in the course of the lawsuit, doing the back and forth and going through discovery and everything, we didn't find anything at all that disputed my version of events. And everything we did find out supported my version of events. Mm-hmm. But we got a ridiculous ruling against us based on what I think is absolutely false testimony from Paul Levitz, former publisher at DC Comics, longtime publisher. And so, Paul testified that I didn't have permission to write this story. That was always their argument. They didn't even argue that it was my story initially. They just argued that I didn't have permission to write it, and therefore they owned it. And which was ridiculous because first of all, Paul had no interactions between me and Archie Goodwin, and all editors at DC Comics are able to enter into contracts on behalf of the company without Paul knowing anything about it. So they all had authority to hire who they want for what project they want, especially in those days. And Warner Brothers invented this fabrication that that DC Comics does not accept unsolicited submissions, which is bullshit on the face of it. And we proved that. We brought in dozens of examples going back from the 70s through the 80s when I was doing it in the 90s into the 2000s. Chuck, for over a decade, said he submitted dozens of unsolicited Batman stories that were some picked up, some not, right? And basically, we felt that at trial that we had a 75%, 80% chance of beating Warner Brothers in court, because it seemed to be that even the Ben Affleck version was based on my story before Reeves was even hired. Because it had the Riddler in it initially. This is according to Zack Snyder and other Warner Brothers sources, that Affleck's version had the Riddler in it, creating an apocalypse to find out the meaning of life, which was my story, and that later he brought in Deathstroke to make it a little more action oriented, but still have the Riddler in it. That Affleck version was supposed to tie into Justice League 2. And there's a continuation of Affleck's Batman story. Now, this is before Reeves was ever hired. So the notion that Reeves originated the story is provably false, we thought. And the judge would not let us see Affleck's story. He wouldn't even let us see, and though we provided plenty of evidence to show that, Reeves did not come up with the story, pre-exists his involvement. And judge would not let us see Affleck's story. And even though we had proof that it very much mirrored my story, even down to the poisoning scene, that was removed in the Reeves version, and the judge wouldn't even let us see Reeves' first draft of the script in a copyright case. We weren't allowed to see Reeves' first draft. They gave us a draft of the story with no metadata on it, so we have no idea when it was created or when it was altered. There was just no proof of it. And when we asked for it, the judge said he was going to sanction my lawyer. That's because we want proof of when if you're going to offer this as your evidence, we want to know when it was made. And we couldn't even get that. So, when it came down to seeing if we were going to go to trial, we thought we had more than made our case. We had met every burden, and we were expecting to go to trial. Judge comes down on a Friday afternoon with, because he just takes Paul's word for it, even though it's conflicting evidence and conflicting testimony that was in dispute, that DC did not allow unsolicited stories. We asked, if you don't allow unsolicited stories, show us one letter, one email where you told that to anybody, ever, something in writing, other than your say so, and they produce nothing at all. So this notion that they didn't accept stories is bullshit. It's total fabrication, invented just for the convenience of the case, and we had evidence completely contradicting that by people who worked in the Batman office, and the judge made his ruling that, he cited against me based on Paul's testimony and the notion that, he's not allowed to submit a story, therefore DC owns the story. Nonsense, ridiculous, and just on the face of it, doesn't hold up to any scrutiny. If submitting a story means a company owns it, what if I had submitted it to Marvel too as a Spider-Man story? Would they both own it? Could they both make billion-dollar movies? Who sues who then? It doesn't even make sense, right? So, but his ruling came down late Friday afternoon. Within an hour, we got an offer from Warner Brothers. I think, that's the timing is that tight, I believe. That Warner Brothers came back with the same offer they had made 4 times at least before that, hey, if you drop your case, we'll drop ours too, and everyone can go home. And that's the end of it. And so, our response to that was fuck no, just like we had said every other time. Even with the ruling, we thought we'll flip this easily.
Why?
Because the judge is not supposed to make rulings on things he's only supposed to rule on things that are fact. If things are in dispute, that's why you go to a jury. And clearly we had evidence that, in Paul's own testimony in his deposition, when he said, people are not allowed to, submit stories. And then we hit him with a bunch of examples. And his response to that was, well, those guys are more famous than Chris, so they're allowed to do it, but Chris is not. It's all nonsense. But we don't have any, documentation that that's a policy. There's nothing written down. There's no emails. There's not a letter to anybody who made it, a submission that we said that to anyone ever, but yet the judge ruled on it like it was fact, and it just ignored our side of it. So now we've got, and Warner Brothers basically, they wanted to try and put pressure, so they gave us till Monday to make a decision. Again, it's drop your appeal, and we'll drop our case, against Wozniak.
So what is their case against you?
They came at me for copyright infringement for a story I wrote 30 years ago. We're way past statute of limitations. Yeah, copyright infringement. Never made a nickel from. They've never sued anybody for copyright infringement for submitting a story. That is non-existent in the history of the company. And why would they do that? Why would they be concerned about copyrights if they didn't use the story in the movie?
Right. That's why they're worried about it.
Right. And so that was their, again.
It's like their countersuit almost incriminates them.
Yes, of course it does.
Right. Yeah.
And even the deal that they offered as a final deal, the one stipulation was I give up my copyright. Again, why would you care about my copyright if it's not in the movie? If my story's not in the movie, doesn't matter what I have a copyright to.
It's in the movie, right?
Yeah,
we could pay him and give him credit, and this would be easy. No, we're not doing that.
So basically, we're in a situation where we thought we were
You're too male, too pale, and too stale.
Yeah.
PMS.
We thought we were on our way to trial, and then turns out we now got another roadblock. We got an appeal to get through, but we got to turn up like $20,000 over the weekend, and Sunday's Easter. So we sent out. So we didn't answer because we were fully untended on appeal, and we sent out feelers to raise some funds, including comic book legal defense fund, which didn't come through for us. Right? What are they there for? Mm-hmm. And basically,
they're there for the big guys.
Monday comes and goes, and basically at this point we're stalling, trying to wait for money to come in so we can file an appeal. And so we offered, like, we made a couple of offers, bullshit counter offers. We knew they weren't going to go for it, but we were trying to we see if we could turn up the money to appeal, and we couldn't raise the money in just a few days. So with that ruling over my head, now I'm on the hook for maybe $3 million in legal fees. So I've got a house, I got family, and it got to the point where my lawyer's like, you got to make a call. You only have 30 days to appeal. So he's like, you got to either hope that we're going to turn up that money. If we don't, the ruling's going to stand. You're going to be on the hook for the bill. And so, in that situation, like I said, we thought we would crush them in a courtroom, that we would destroy them. But at that point, like, with that ruling hanging over my head, it's a tough one, because what if we don't turn up the money? Then to file the appeal, then I'm stuck with this ruling. And so with the weight of that on, I said, okay, we'll walk away. And so that's what happened. And basically, we just all went home, and it came to nothing. They got nothing out of it. We got nothing out of it. And and it is what it is. Everyone can make up their own minds, on how that played out, and whether or not that's my story in the movie. I think it's obviously my story, because Reeves did not write the same exact plot that I wrote. It's just nonsense. And the fact that it looks like it was also my plot, when Affleck was doing it, that
well, we know that these people are that they're not comic book fans that are making these movies.
Now
we know that.
We're at the fantasy that 3 people independently wrote the same story for the same project. It's bullshit, So
the likelihood of that happening is
it's beyond that. It's a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't buy that at all. But we know that the people in this industry are.
But that's where it lands.
I know the people in this industry are dishonest and cannibalistic. They eat their own. So, what's some advice that you have for any of us out here?
I am generally very careful about protecting my properties but Michael Uslan came out of DC, and I came out of DC, and I didn't think, it never even occurred to me to protect myself from those people I trusted. DC in those days, Archie Goodwin, Denny O'Neil, those guys, I fully trusted, and if they were still alive, I still would, and so, I didn't think to, file copyright for my story. Ultimately, I don't even know if that would matter, but, because again, once you get in a lawsuit with the second biggest film studio in the world, it's a war of attrition every time. They drag it out, looking to burn your resources. And that's what happened with us. The day we ran out of money and couldn't keep going. But, in a room full of 12 people, I think it would have destroyed them, because their version of it is that it's all a coincidence, and just nobody would buy that, especially after everything that we found out, that we didn't know when I made the big stink at the beginning. Everything landed in our favor, and their excuse for things. Oh, you didn't have permission. Well, show us that policy. We never said it to anybody before now, but that was the policy. It just none of it fucking passed the sniff test.
So why do you think? I mean, we can only really speculate, but why do you think they cut you out to begin with? Like, why would they not give the writer credit for it? I mean, obviously, they credit people all the time.
Uslan, I think it probably came from Uslan. That's my speculation. That Uslan, he says on film that he provides blueprints for the stories and everything, and that he outsources. Then he takes them from outside sources. He's on camera saying that, so it's not something that I made up. It's you can see Michael Uslan say that himself.
Outsourcing, which means plagiarism.
Yeah, he says we usually take play or comic book or story. We turn it into a blueprint for a film. Usually, they own the rights to those things. This is a case where they never bought that story from me. And that was obviously the sticking point. Hey, wait a minute, I wrote this. This is my story until you buy it. And you didn't buy it, so you can't use it now. So that was,
and they'd have saved all that trouble if they'd have covered their ass.
And even in the beginning, I was willing to accept that it's some kind of filing error or something. It wasn't, clearly, because there was evidence that they apparently tried to use that storyline in Batman versus Superman, and that it got cut out. That also, just like in Justice League 2, which is supposed to be a continuation of that story, that they would try to use it in Batman. Zach was using it in Batman versus Superman initially, and he cut it out, because basically the story was getting a little too bloated. But then they were, he was reintroducing that story in Justice League 2 and says explicitly that storyline is a continuation of Affleck's story. With the apocalypse and Riddler causing it. There's storyboards for it that Jim Lee drew, So
I will say this: of the newest Batman movies, I really liked that one. The take on the Riddler was so different; it was refreshing to me.
Yeah.
So, for what it's worth, you did a hell of a job.
Thank you.
On that one.
It landed where it landed. There's nothing you can do about it now. It's big fish eats the little fish. But I'm not. I ordered a poster of the film and the Riddler action figure, and I'm just gonna cross Reeves' name off of it, sign my own, and because I know what's what, and
right.
So I'm gonna keep them as a keepsake, and then that'll be that.
So do you think you can trust anyone in this industry now?
Jesus Christ, the big fish? I don't know. It is difficult, when you see this type of thing happen over and over and over again. It's not just me. In my case, was fairly, kind of blatant, and you could see all the plot points were represented in the film, and they happen in the same order, and the rewrites all coincide. It was very difficult to ignore. But this is a common thing. They know that they can get away with it, and they do it all the time. So it's, again, who has the money to fight them? When they do it. So
it is.
You should protect your properties before you show them. Before you show it to them.
We have to make the bird dance.
Back at 210. Thank
Back
you very much.
210. Look at that. You guys are, is that $15?
That's $15 away from a 5-figure campaign, folks. Back
guys, you know what? Somebody give him $15. Come on, guys.
Appreciate you all very much. All 211 of you. And the one that's coming especially. Yeah.
Come on, number 211.
211.
Put us over 15, but come on, guys.
Put us over that edge. Thank you so much.
Let's do that. Let's break 10K this morning.
Yep.
For that one. I think that would be we need to have a busy bacon day is what we need. We have 15. Just
it's already been a busy bacon day.
It really has.
Just deeply appreciate everybody giving to this campaign. It's a great product, a great book. Can't recommend it to you enough.
While we're doing that, let's go check on
Nexus.
On Wozniak's
look at
book
that
here again. We have to go down a little bit here. That's what
look at all those great books, mythicals. Oh, that's a crazy
books.
Fool book.
Nexus book is looking good.
Soul Tack, excellent.
Great Still 11 backers there.
There we go.
11 backers.
Yeah, guys, don't forget. Yeah, we've been at 11 backers for a minute now. Let's look at the Nexus for a second. That looks good.
Yeah.
This is Kelsey and Mike Barron.
There you are.
They're on 3 different platforms, and they're still doing this well.
That's good.
Look at that. That's a great cover.
Yeah.
Kelsey's got a great way about him.
Illustration. He does.
Yeah, that's looking fun.
I love that.
Lots of fun.
God, that just reminds me of old Justice League stuff. Oh, I love that. always been a fan of his work.
Kelsey's great.
Yeah, I tend to lean to the less rendered stuff as well. So, which is why I always just get really enamored by the artists that are doing so much with less lines.
Just a few lines,
Yeah, I mean, the rendered stuff is great. Don't be wrong. I like it too, but it's this stuff that I really enjoy.
It's really an ode back to Alex Toth and, well, Steve Root, obviously, who did Nexus originally. Just great stuff.
If I can't see the black line in comic art, it's usually like,
Oh, look at that. Oh, thank you, 211.
Here we go.
Boom, there we are.
Appreciate you very much.
Randy.
That deserves a lot.
It's all on Russ, I'm telling you.
We're gonna celebrate this.
200%.
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce.
You know what? Let's celebrate some more.
Gleich sagen wird, das werden wir uns anhören. Mit von der Partie die Woodies.
I love that.
Is that keyboard carved out of a log or something?
Yes, it is. It's on the log.
Ich bin der kleine Fichtel vom Zauberland und bitte euch, ihr Leute, gebraucht
Germans.
Unser Leben ist bedroht.
Nothing more fun than a talking tree. Yeah.
Them crazy Germans.
The Germans.
Thanks to everyone who backed, shared, and streamed. The best people. Absolutely. Thank you again.
And Russ has been working his butt off.
Yes.
To make this one happen. Congratulations. Congratulations, guys. Good news. That's good news all the way around.
Yep.
And you know what? I'd like to watch this trailer one more time. Let's see how this. Yeah, here we go. Did that just stop?
It did.
Strange.
It's frozen.
YouTube having issues yesterday.
Yeah, strange. So we'll pull that out then. That's what she said.
Hold it.
Let me go ahead and add that back in.
That's not at all what she said.
Bunny wants to know where I find all this white people cringe. At the meetings, at the meetings that we have.
White people meetings.
Well,
the official WPC meetings.
Yeah. That's not white people. That is still cringe.
At all.
Cringe is not racist. It's it has a lot of equality in cringe.
No respecter of person. when it comes to cringe.
We're all spiritual gurus.
So this is the divine intervention. You could become a spiritual guru on your own, but you just have to tie your shoes, and you just have to know how to eat burritos backwards.
That is not a joke. That is a natural fact.
It is a natural fact, my friends. It really is. So this book is guys, you're gonna love this book. It is quite good, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
If you liked the Batman movie with Patterson,
go. Ignition.
This story equally is well handled.
Yeah.
And there's without a doubt that this is Wozniak's story. I think that's the best part of self-publishing, isn't it? That it's definitely yours. You know, no one's gonna. You can't really refute it.
Yeah, and to have something. Oh, there you go. But to have something that was just like, you know, a spark in your mind, and then to sit through the process of putting it together and actually getting it out, and then to have people respond to it, that's like wild. It's, you know, it's a big deal.
So the book is done.
Yeah.
You have this set up as a ongoing.
Yeah.
There's no end date to this one.
Yeah, we're gonna do 12, and I want to keep all 12 on my comic.
Nice.
So you got to look at it like a maxi series, basically.
Yeah. My little grandpup here is needing some attention. Grandma and grandpa, so my mother and father-in-law, were with us over the weekend. And whenever my mom is here.
Hey, I think the dog successfully muted his microphone.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Let me see if I can unmute you from here. Nope. Can't unmute your guest. Their mic isn't connected. Your mic, there it is. Try now.
Yeah.
There you are.
So when mom's here, grandma's here, she gets the dogs just get all the attention, and so this one gets very used to it very quickly, and is now in need of cuddles and pets every few hours. So she's popping out on the stream this. But, here you go. Yep, this is Chloe. My daughter bought this dog for her 21st birthday.
Wow.
Oh no, I take that back. Her 20th birthday. So a year ago, she bought her. She said, "I made it out of my teens without a pregnancy." So I'm an adult.
You're breaking up a little on your mic.
Oh, can't you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sometimes you're breaking up. So.
Oh.
Ever since you unmuted. There you go.
There we go.
I think you're good.
Keep better now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so for her 20th birthday, she said, "I made it out of my teens without a pregnancy, so I'm buying a dog."
Yeah.
And so that's what she did.
How old are you? My daughter's 11, and I'm clearly older than you.
I'm 40. I'll be 44 May 5th.
Wow.
Yep. So coming up here shortly. We had her. I was 22 when she was born, because she's getting ready to turn 22 this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're half my life ago.
I'm already a grandfather.
Wow.
20.
Nice.
Here.
So about this kind of art style, what was it was it necessity for being able to for speed?
Yes.
Is that what caused you to decide on this?
Well, I knew that this type of look was best suited, to serve the story. But then I also knew, having to deal with the colorist and everything, like I didn't know that the book would be served well in color, that it might lose, the vibe and just fully rendered. And so I got to the point where I was like, maybe I should just do it in black and white. But then I hit on the notion of just doing everything monotone, but with, that issue specific spot color that would tie in to the reveal. And so it's a little bit like when Frank did Sin City and he had the Yellow Bat Bastard or something, but every issue is going to have a different color that ties into to that issue's particular reveal, and it really is helpful the way I'm doing it as a story device, because when we shift into those spot colors, like in the first series, gold, if you see those gold tinted panels, you know that we're in flashback, and so that's how I'm using it, and also to highlight certain specific things you need to pay attention to. And I think it just really worked. I didn't, I just was trying to. I thought black and white was the way to do it, but then I thought, okay, this would be more interesting, and it would also, serve the story a little better. And that's how I landed on it. Looked like it worked, and so that's where we are. Luke is muted.
Uh-oh. Not good. Sorry. Had that dog pop up again, apparently. Let's try it again here. Nope.
Get some loose cables down there or something?
Must be.
Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.
There we are.
Nope.
Keep trying to connect. You're not there yet, bud.
You tried turning it on and off again.
It might be a reboot.
Luke is.
So the one time I'm over there thanking everybody and typing up a note on Facebook, Luke loses his mic for good.
What a story, Mark.
Yay! Yay! Think about what you've accomplished.
Here we are. Back yet? No. Here we are.
Technical difficulty.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
There we go.
Okay, so here's what's going on. I think my microphone just died. I'm using You'll notice the sound is different. So
yeah.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead. You know what? We're going to go ahead and close down a little early today.
We can call it. Yep.
We can go ahead and call it today.
Due to technical difficulties.
I've been having trouble with the Yeti, so
yeah.
I knew it was coming.
Not good. It has been a heck of a show, though.
Yeah, that was a good episode here.
Yeah.
Even with the technical difficulties.
Yeah. We've had some good
Earlier,
conversation.
I wanted to mention was you put it beautifully. You made a really great argument for why we should be doing independent projects.
Yep. I think, it's, if you control your IP, you control your fate. Yeah.
Yep.
No, for that.
And that's what's important is, kind of controlling your own fate. I think that's the beautiful part about independent comics, the spirit of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Independent comics. So, Chris, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank all of the backers out there, all those people watching. Thank you for the chat, for being here. You're the reason why we do this every week. We will be back here again next week with another episode, probably talking more marketing and learning some more skills, so we can sell books. Selling books is hard, you see. It's really hard. So thank you for keeping that bird busy today. He is going to need a nap this afternoon because you kept him so busy.
I just want to say two things. One, I'm going to be at the Grand Rapids Con in Kalamazoo this weekend. Swing by, say hello. I'll give you a free comic. And it'll be a great comic, too. Probably Russ's comic of Only Death Can Save Us. And the second thing I want to point out, and I don't want to end on a down note, but Trina Robbins passed yesterday. And if you're not familiar with how great she was, you need to find out. And you need to take a look at her career. She's got some great books available on Amazon about comics history, and especially female comic creators in comics history that are well worth your time. So go over there and take a look. Rest in peace, Trina Robbins. What a great pioneer. What a great person. So
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, panel, for being here today. Thanks, Eric, for popping in. I know you're up early today.
I get up early every day of the week now.
Adulting sucks.
Yes, it does.
Adulting sucks.
Thanks again, everybody, on the Shadow Kingdom, too. Yeah, sorry, Eric.
I'll be walking around the Florida Astronomicon this Saturday if anybody's around and wants to say hi.
Astronomicon.
Astronomicon. Oh, that's could be a fun one to say. Yeah, guys, check it out. Don't forget to go check out fundmycomic.com. Check out aerocomics.store. Buy some comics over there.
Yep.
Go back one of the great campaigns over on fundmycomic.com. Lots of good stuff over there. Tell everyone about it. The creators over there get to keep more of their own money. That's really what it's about, them being able to keep more so they don't have to raise as much, so that they can put more of that to use to making great content for you on a regular basis. It's all about creative freedom. It's all about owning your own property. It's all about having fun making comics and having fun reading comics. Guys, I really do appreciate all the support the website has seen in the last year. And I'm very excited about this next year coming up and the many things that we have planned. It looks like the end of the poll has come in, and that's what she said, that we are going to wind up doing the backer numbers is going to be the first upgrade that we're going to be doing probably in May. So it looks like we're going to start that one for May and get that one done. And then we will add July or August, we will add the collaborators. The reason why we're waiting so long in between is for testing and debugging. So we don't want to just pile one on top of the other. And we want to make sure that we're rolling those out smoothly for all of you. But we do have a number of upgrades in the pipe. We don't like that one, remember? But we do have that. We do have several upgrades that we're going to be doing over the course of the next year that we're very excited about in-house, and I think that you will be too. Fundmycomic.com. It is I think it's the future of comic book crowdfunding. It's a great place to go and just shop and buy. It's your online comic book store. Many of these books are shipping out right away. Speaking of which, Chris, when does yours ship?
September, I think, the first one.
Nice. So shipping in September. So we need to raise some money to help pay for that print run because you have the legal fees that you've gotten stuck with, right?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, good.
No.
I was worried about that.
I'm fine. Yeah.
I was worried about that. I was like, when you said that you just had to settle it, and I was like, oh no.
No, it settled, and everybody went home and called it a day. So it basically, like a forfeited softball game. It's like,
rain date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Russ says it right. There's a clue in the title. Fund my comic. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. Remember, it's so easy to tear things down. We want to start building things up. We need to be positive. Everyone's taking a negative angle. We need to be the positive force out there in the universe, trying to do some good things with comic books. Let it be the escape that everyone needs.
Yes.
So build up more than you tear down. Leave that wood pile higher than you found it. And by all means, my friends, you know what I'm going to say. Let's play the song. Be careful.
Let's be careful out there. Let's be careful out there. We had a 187 at the 7-Eleven on the corner of 4th and Main. 2 Caucasians of the male persuasion put a bullet through the cashier's brain. Moving on, I see a 211, half a dozen 459, 2 ADWs, a GTA, and several miscellaneous crimes. Homicide.